who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and $1 Million Listing. This is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome, everyone, to World of Wonders Wow Report on Radio Andy, where we count down the top 10 things that made us go wow this week.
That's right.
Except this week, we're doing something slightly different.
Not only is it different, it's gayer.
It's very gay. It's very gay. We've been joined by about how many? 2,000 balloons.
Yes, a rainbow.
You made me sit in the dungeon and blow up one at a time. That's all I did last week, was just blow balloons for you.
You just put it between your lips and
Yeah,
balloons.
so if you're listening, you hear a lot of, it's the balloons.
Well, we actually had a 25th anniversary here because World of Wonder was celebrating 25 years in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And there was...
wow.
So we had a balloon thing, lots of balloons. And I'm Fenner Bailey, co-founder of World of Wonder, here with Tom Campbell, our Chief Creative Officer.
Hello.
James St. James.
The Balloony Tune, James A. James.
I love it.
Totally Balloony Tune.
Tied it right into the thing.
And Blake.
Hello.
And Blake.
So actually, but we're going to do something different this week. What we're going to do is we're going to count down the top 10 gayest moments in HERstory. Because we've just had Pride. And for those of you watching on Wow Presents, you can see we're surrounded by a pride of balloons. That's what you call a group of balloons, right? Multicolored balloons.
Why not?
And
And I'm so glad we're doing this after Pride because, you know, like Black History Month shouldn't just be the time. We shouldn't just be
We should
talking
have
about
our
gay
pride all year
Yes.
long. We should be feeling our pride every day of every month of every year.
oh, I wouldn't say so. So what's at number 10?
Number 10.
Okay, it's we're so gay. We are living a bubble. We're very lucky that we work in an amazing place, World of Wonder, that's run by two gay men. And while everyone's not gay here, it's LGBTQ friendly. There's allies, and every day is a gift. That being said, when I think of HERstory, when I think of impact, I think of the sitcom Will and Grace. You know, I don't know that we take it for granted. Maybe we do, but at the time on NBC on Thursday night, must-see TV, Friends.
Friends, yeah.
The straightest show on television. Seinfeld, the straight. No, I love those shows, by the way. Funny. But out came Will and Grace. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite shows of all time.
And it holds up. And the fact that it's back and still those characters still make sense and they still make you laugh and those performers haven't kind of aged somehow.
You wonder, like, what went through the executive minds of, like, can we do this? Do we dare? Because Ellen had just sort of, it was around the time Ellen had come out.
And
as soon as she came out, her show fizzled.
Right.
So the executives and all their wisdom could have been like, well, it's not the time.
And, you know, you think of when Love Sydney was, you know, they tried to have another gay
with
show.
Tony Randall in the mid-'70s.
Yeah, early 80s. Was it?
Okay, but I think it was pre-AIDS.
Yeah, definitely. And they tried to do a gay sitcom back then, and that lasted.
I think they ended up rewriting it. He was just like the uncle.
Yeah,
like,
he was a fussy uncle, confirmed bachelor.
But credit where credit's due, Max Subutchik and David Cohen, his writing partner, who were super young at the time. I know Max. I know David because of Max. I live in Max. When Max sold his first sitcom, Boston Common, he moved into a really nice house, and I've lived in his apartment ever since. He's lived in several houses. I still live in the same apartment.
You lived he lived in your apartment?
Yeah, Max was my yes. And Boston Common. I like to say Will and Grace was created in my den, but I think it was Boston Common. But you know what? Who's paying attention? Exactly. So, but you know, I think part of what got them through is that Max and David are so funny and are so professional. David's the son of, he has his own rights, obviously, but Buzz Cohen. Buzz Cohen is a name on every variety show, every variety special. He's this classic comedy. Max is hilarious. I think David Nevins, who's now head of was Showtime and now the head of CBS, right, I think was the executive who sort of was the one fighting it through. And God bless NBC, a network taking that on. Right. And it is so funny. It was so funny.
And it was one of the first to come back to get a reboot.
One of the reboots, right?
Yeah. And it succeeded from the beginning.
Yes.
You know, you got to give credit where it's credit is due, and the cast is absolutely fantastic. You got Megan Mullally, who, you know, in supporting roles that just, they could have given her own show. They could have given Jack his own show, but they were wise enough to realize put them in the background, and
they didn't do the Ropers thing.
No.
Where the Ropers left Three's Company.
Or Joni Loves Chachi.
Yes. And Deborah Messing and Eric McCormick. And, you know, again, and it was, you talked to Max about it, and, you know, because I think it was Biden or somebody who said, like, a lot of the reason that we have gay marriage in America is because of Will and Grace, because it was like, oh, now we all know somebody who's gay and they're lovely. And Will McCormick does a great job too. And Max was very careful in calculating to have like the less guy and the more flamboyant gay guy just to get us through the door. And it's what great storylines they've had.
Absolutely brilliant, transformative.
What was I going to say? Oh, that's all. But it's just and we have something with Max, so hopefully we'll be.
And Sean Hayes was here today in the office.
Oh, how fun. Was he?
Yes.
What?
Will and Grace premiered on September 21st, 1998, ran for 8 seasons before finishing in 2006. Rebooted 2006.
The thing I was going to say is the very first scene of the very first thing is brilliant, and it's Will and Grace playing $25,000 pyramid at home. So they give each other clues with other people winning, and they just win because it was that gay straight relationship where like they go, that place by the, and they would be like, blue.
Yeah. That's a running gag that they have throughout the show where they play that,
but they know each other so well, and that is gay and the girl best girlfriend is such a real relationship that resonates with people today. Like they either have one or they want to be part of that.
And you talk about some of the other supporting cast members, and you think Debbie Reynolds, how brilliant they were to get Debbie Reynolds as her mother, Blythe Danner as
everyone
mother.
shared
eventually it became everybody and their brother was on. But wasn't Suzanne Plachette? Wasn't that Megan
Mullally's mother? Yes.
And they it's so good. It's just perfect casting all around.
Great taste and perfect casting. And Drag Race in its own way, in a different genre, celebrates the gay sensibility. What's so great about being gay?
Yeah. All right, counting down top 10 moments in gay HERstory. Number 9, James.
Number 9.
This is a hard one. This is a sad one. This is something that's very important in gay culture and LGBT culture, gay history. I want to talk about Pedro Zamora when he was on Real World. And I was doing a little research today and just sobbing at my desk because it brought back all those feelings we had in, was it 93 was the year?
93, yeah.
93, it was the San Francisco season. It was the second season.
It was the third season.
It was New York. Then there was LA,
and then there was San Francisco.
Right.
And Pedro,
I think they started filming in 93, but it aired in 94.
I think that's right.
Pedro Zamora was a Cuban-American AIDS educator in television. He was one of the first openly gay men with AIDS portrayed in popular media.
It's such a scary time when there was no cure.
There was no cure, and we watched his deterioration over the course of the season. We watched him get weaker and weaker, and he did it with such grace and class. The way he educated everybody in the house with him. They started off being homophobic, and then he managed to tell them what AIDS was and tell them what HIV was and how they couldn't get it, blah blah blah. And it educated America at the same time. Yeah. It brought international attention to HIV/AIDS and LGBT issues and prejudices through reality television, which was something that reality hadn't really been doing.
I don't remember it being ghoulish because I thought he was handsome.
He was so
charming,
so beautiful, so well spoken.
And during the coursing of the film, which was over a few months, I mean, you're just in denial because you're like, people, this is, again, the wake-up call for people that young don't die. Yeah. He looked vibrant. His hair was beautiful. And sort of after they stopped filming, and there might have been a special afterwards I haven't seen, but that's when he got sicker and sicker. And people would peak off. I mean, he went to the hospital and stuff on.
Yeah. It also one of the big things. Well, that was the year of Puck. That was the series with Puck on it, and Puck was a great villain, and the two of them clashed repeatedly, right. And it made him look better and better and more intelligent to be dealing with it in such a classy way. Right. He also had a commitment ceremony with his boyfriend, who he met on this show, and that was one of the first times one of the first times that there'd ever been a commitment ceremony on television.
As an 11 or 12-year-old little gay, it was really kind of scary watching, I mean, I knew I was going to be, or I knew I was gay, right. But it was scary, like you knew growing up that I would have to deal with that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I felt about Vietnam, and that's silly, but I
right,
grew up in Vietnam. It's like, oh no, I'm going to die in Vietnam.
But it was the first time it was the first same-sex ceremony in television history, and is considered a landmark in the history of the medium. As he was started to deteriorate on the show, he was losing weight. He was getting confused. He was having trouble stringing sentences together near the end.
But I was in denial.
You were in denial. But and then when President Clinton called him, do you remember that? Oh my God! And by that time, they said that he didn't even really know that he was talking to President Clinton.
Didn't they do a special afterwards? Am I wrong about that?
No, they
and
did.
Then they did a movie, right?
Well, they did do a movie, but they did follow him up afterwards. But as he was in and out of the hospital near the end, and President Clinton opened up Cuba to allow his family to come visit him before he died, and that was very.
And
the series ended on like November 18th, and within hours he passed away.
Of the airing, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The and credit where credit's due to Buna Murray.
Yeah.
For producing that, for putting gay people into that show from the get-go,
And they were
and
saying,
to continue doing that and opening the eyes. And they always say it's a one-on-one level. If you know someone who's gay, you'll be less likely to be homophobic. And through television, through the relationship we have with characters and real people.
They were saying that this was the first time that like young people got to see another young person who was gay and be a positive role model, and that opened the door for a lot of things in the '90s that happened.
Pedro Zamora.
Yeah, rest in power.
Rest in power. Right. Number 8.
Number 8.
Tom Robinson Band. Have you ever heard of a Tom Robinson Band?
No.
Well, growing up in England, punk happened in like 1976, and inspired by that, a singer called Tom Robinson released a single, Tom Robinson Band, called Sing If You're Glad to Be Gay. Look, in England, homosexuality was decriminalized in 1967.
Ahead of us.
But discrimination, persecution persisted, and he was just fed up with, the lyrics go, read how disgusting we are in the press, the Telegraph People and Sunday Express, molesters of children, corrupters of youth. It's there in the paper, it must be the truth. Obviously, sarcastic use of
But very nice use of rhyme.
Lie to your workmates, lie to your folks, put down the queens, tell anti-queer jokes, gay libs ridiculous, join their laughter. The buggers are legal now. What more are they after?
I do like this.
But the best thing about the song was this chorus: was sing if you're glad to be gay, sing if you're happy that way. Hey, and it's just a really great song.
Now, but tell me,
and it got into the charts, and it reached number 18. And guess what? The BBC banned it, of course.
But now, but could you sing this at school, or would you get beaten by your
at the
your
boarding
classmates?
school? You'd get dragged off behind a bush and buggered. No.
Oh my goodness.
No, it was.
We learn more and more about Fenton's childhood every episode.
But this song has since become like a gay anthem in the UK.
Yes,
right?
it's become this classic. And it's funny, it never really crossed over, and Tom Robinson never really crossed over to here, and he really only had a couple of hits. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But this was a great hit. And funnily enough, it was the first time in 1978 that it was okay to sing this song. Actually, it was it was a right moment, and it was just on the right side of cool, and it wasn't just. It was a well-chosen release, and actually people did sing it and did get into it, and it was cool and okay to like the song.
Well, I guess it would be a little bit like I Am What I Am, and people were singing that on
Are you inviting me to sing I Am What I Am right now? To perform it here on the radio?
But on every variety show in 1979.
Yes.
And also
Phyllis Newman singing it on the Mike Douglas show.
Raquel Welch doing it.
I think what made me think of it was Taylor Swift's song "You Need to Calm Down," which is really, I guess you got born this way. But those are the two most out gay anthems, right?
Yep.
Don't you think, James? You're giving me a frown.
Relax,
I'm not frowning.
Freddie. Relax.
Relax.
Well, that's about the joy of
that's
anal
just
sex.
jerking off. Oh,
But
anal
it's a gay
sex.
anthem nonetheless, right?
Relax
Is it
your
gay?
sphincter.
Oh.
That's about doing poppers.
Learn something
Tom,
new every day.
take some water to deal with dry mouth.
I thought it was a song about masturbation.
No, it's about relaxing your sphincter to be penetrated.
Did you know, James? I've never known until this day.
Anyway, my favorite thing is when people yell at you to relax when they're having sex with you. It's like, relax! It's like, am I the only one?
Oh, does that happen a lot to you?
Well, just because I have the cats, I guess. That didn't make any sense. Can we cut that part out? If we were to cut some part out, that would be a good part to cut out.
Telling
You
someone
hated your cats are yelling at you because during sex to relax.
Glad to Be Gay reached number 18 on the UK singles chart, and many consider it to be Britain's national gay anthem. Okay? We'll be right back after the break. I have the trivia question for you.
Hit me.
Yeah.
The BBC was very fond of banning songs. I'm curious to know which of this list the BBC did not ban. Queen, Killer Queen. Alice Cooper, School's Out. Chuck Berry, My Ding-a-Ling.
Good song.
Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Relax. And ABBA's Waterloo. Which of those songs did the BBC not ban?
Can we play Ding-a-Ling on the way out?
Yeah, let's play.
All right.
You're listening to Wow Report on Radio Andy, and here's a bit of My Ding-a-Ling.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report.
Hey, welcome back.
You're Andrew Dice Clay.
Yo, yo,
Hey, yo.
Hello.
Fonzie's
And
here.
welcome back to the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
That's better.
We're counting down the top 10 moments in gay herstory that made us go,
Wow.
And before the break, because we were talking about, I was talking about Tom Robinson Band, Glad to Be Gay. Sing If You're Glad to Be Gay. It's a great song, and it was a big hit in 1978. And but it was banned by the BBC. So I asked you guys, I said, which of these songs did the BBC not ban? Queen.
It's a long list. Okay.
Okay, I
Queen.
know. Queen, Killer Queen.
Yeah.
Probably.
ABBA, Waterloo.
Maybe. I don't think
Alice
so.
Cooper, School's Out.
That seems so weird. Yeah.
Chuck Berry, My Ding-a-Ling.
Gotta buy
Probably
that.
not.
Frankie Hollywood, Relax.
That's just filthy.
I'm going to say Waterloo was not banned by the BBC.
I would say My Ding-a-Ling.
I'm going to say School's Out.
Blake is right. The BBC did not ban Chuck Berry's My Ding-a-Ling.
They probably-
Probably
What's wrong
because
with
Ding-a-Ling didn't mean anything.
them? And why would they ban ABBA's Waterloo? I guess because
There was a war in it. I don't know. I don't know.
one new.
Because there's Swedish.
Oh, maybe that's it. Okay, number 7, Tom.
Number 7.
Gayest moment. This is a bit of a sad gayest moment, but I thought was incredibly illuminating in my lifetime. And again, it was 1985. I was 22 years old. I was living in Los Angeles for the summer. I was still finishing up school, and the first time I saw the word AIDS was written on the ceiling of the men's bathroom at Harvard, and it was AIDS, and it said ass injected death sentence. And we knew a little bit more about 85, but not that much more. There wasn't HIV, there wasn't detection, you couldn't test positive. You just knew people got sick and they died. And Doris Day, one of my idols, was doing a cable show on the Christian Broadcasting Network, which was turned into ABC Family, was turned into Freeform, and it was all about her love of animals. It was called Doris Day and Friends, and she'd have Kay Ballard or Angie Dickinson or any of her old Hollywood pals come and do these like really sweet things. And Rock Hudson, she called up Rock Hudson, and he said yes, and he showed up, and those were the pictures that flashed across the nation and the world of a very gaunt, clearly sick, reported to be dying of AIDS, Rock Hudson. What made that so important is up until that point, Rock Hudson, while gay to Hollywood, was in the closet because the closet existed, and you could live a double life and live it very, very well. And here were two of the films. 25 years earlier, they were in Pillow Talk, and they were and they did several movies together. They were the most American, beautiful. He's the most handsome man, and women loved him, and all that kind of stuff. And here it was, 25 years later, and this guy's dying of AIDS. He had just done Dynasty, where he had kissed Linda,
And that was a scam.
and he looked good then. But
he was beginning to look skinny.
yes, but
People
you still couldn't pin it on it. It used to be this whole thing where you could sort of, they've got AIDS.
So when he was on Dynasty, it wasn't known.
No. But by the time
But-
it was sort of airing, and now he was very, very gaunt.
Right.
Yeah, but I do remember people talking about him, whispering,
Yes.
saying
well,
that.
us, but gays, but
Yeah.
not America.
Right.
Forget about the gays. America and the world found out overnight that Rock Hudson had AIDS, that Rock Hudson was gay, and no one, including the Reagans, who were ignoring the AIDS crisis, could turn their back and totally ignore the fact that their good buddy Rock Hudson
Well,
was
but there was
dying
that
of
famous
this
thing where
disease.
he asked Nancy to help him get the treatment in France, and she turned him down.
Presumably she didn't. So there were these, everybody, during times of crises like this, when there are plagues and illnesses and there's no known cure, people go to great extremes to try to find a result. And there was a treatment with blood transfusion, I think, that was in Paris that Rock Hudson, being having all the a lot of money and friends and connections, went to do. I think he ended up dying there. Maybe died back in America. But
he did come back to America.
But that was, and those were the few days of press where it was just like.
But Nancy wouldn't. But he went
I've
to
heard
Nancy,
that. I've heard that.
that she and
Would
Ronald
she
would
do
not-
something or do help lift some kind of?
And then the other sort of the 1-2 punch of it was Liberace died within a year or so, a couple of years, right? And he died denying.
It was the
he had
watermelon diet. It
AIDS.
was the watermelon diet.
And even the local, I don't know what you call them, when they do postmortems.
Coroner.
Thank you. The coroner had to give chase to the body because they didn't want to give up the
Right.
body to the coroner to be.
So even in his death, Liberace remained in the closet because
Yeah.
that was the fear of our society.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just the Rock Hudson moment was amazing because he's, and I don't think it's amazing he did that. His movies live on. His beauty lives on. He was just an adorable creature.
And
kindness
instead of
fun.
being afraid of what was happening, that he's become a hero now,
Yeah.
and that we have.
And Elizabeth Taylor's relationship to Rock Hudson is largely what invoked her to go and do all of her AIDS work. And she said at his funeral, "Pray God he did not die in vain," which always kills me. And I think a lot of, again, there's other reasons, but Elton John, I think, was inspired by Elizabeth Taylor's work for AIDS research. So a lot of activism and money has come
He
from
was
that
mostly
moment.
with that Ryan. Remember the
Yes, but I still think Elizabeth Taylor was a pioneer in terms of being a
and
celebrity at the
it
forefront.
does make us think so much better of Elizabeth Taylor and Doris Day and the people who did stand up during that time. And it was
and I went to Commitment of Life, which was a big fundraiser for AIDS back in the day. It was the #1 charity in Hollywood because they were losing everyone. And there was one thing where Doris Day didn't appear, but it was her, and it was an icon with a woman singing for him. It was like Halston had Betty Bacall talking to him or something, and it was Rock Hudson, and she sang "My Buddy" over recording, and how much he meant to her. And it's just it was a time that brought people together and made it undeniable to the world that this could happen to anyone.
It's beautiful. Rest in perfection, Rock Hudson.
Amen.
Number 6, James.
Number 6.
another sad one. I'm sorry. This should be a celebration.
We should have a meeting. We should have a meeting before this.
So, because this is something. This is one that guts me.
We have balloons at the house.
I wish I could quit you.
Brokeback Mountain.
Oh my God, 2005.
It's been that long. It's been that long.
It has been 14 years since Brokeback Mountain came out. I just think about the beautiful way that the story was told. It's based on a short story by Annie Proulx. It is. Did you not like it? You're giving me
Let James.
Well, how dare really? One of the most beautiful love stories of all time, starring two of the more handsomest men giving the performances of their career. Also, when you think about Michelle Williams' performance, when you think about Anne Hathaway's performance.
Anne Hathaway in that last phone call.
Oh, just brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. There are two scenes in it that absolutely gut me every single time.
What are they?
It's when they haven't seen each other in years, and they see and just the power of their attraction and the power of their love, and they just come together and they just smash. They just make out and when Anne Hathaway, or no, it's Michelle Williams, sees them out of the window as they just come together in that explosion of love.
Two closeted married cowboys that
love
can't
each
deny
other
their
so
love.
much, and they're just like two magnets like going towards each other. It's so beautiful, and I just remember sobbing when that happened in the theater. And the other one is at the very end when he smells the shirt and he goes and he sees the shirt in the closet and it's the blood stain on the shirt, and he just grabs it and holds it and smells it, and the tears are coming, and the mother is standing there watching, and she lets him have the shirt. Oh God, it's just so sad, and it's so beautiful. And I just, it lost the Oscar, which it never should have lost. It went to Crash.
Oh my God! See, you can make an argument if it's another movie, Crash. Like, has anyone seen Crash since? Does anyone care?
No, nobody cares about Crash.
The guy who made it care? Like, no one cares about Crash.
And the other thing that is really, upsetting about the movie is that they tried to sell it as a straight love story. Remember, the posters were of Heath and Michelle.
Right.
There's no, it was the two of them embraced, and what? How dishonest is that marketing?
Here is the one thing, because Michael Pressman has this before. He used to work here, and he used to work in movie marketing as well. And he said that he worked on Harvey Milk, the movie Milk. and he said that they were trained to say this is a movie about when people come together, they can do anything. That people can change history, and no mention of homosexuality because they said, and that's the $100,000 question, which is, do you want to bring more people into the theater and have them experience the story and the characters, or we live in a world where we've had to make that compromise, or do you say it's a gay film? People are like, I'm not going to go to a gay film.
But you risk tricking people and them resenting you for tricking you into the theater.
Right.
If it's a homophobe who is tricked into isn't told that it's a gay movie, and then he goes in, then he's going to be more irritated with you for doing it.
And that's why Will and Grace again was so anything that's gay that gets a lot of attention.
I must have a harder stone because it just left me not that moved.
Did you not?
And I can't really remember now why I didn't like it much, because I loved Jake Gyllenhaal. Thought he was so hot.
Yeah,
it wasn't very a verbal movie. It wasn't deeply expressive. But when you mentioned those moments,
right?
Just because it was this buried passion and
that they were
secret.
never allowed to
the
be
most tragic
together
of loves.
In the tent. The scene in the tent.
Yeah, but they just, that he kept saying, I want to run off with you. I want to get a house with you somewhere. And that he just couldn't ever break out of what the expectations
and that last
for him.
scene with Anne Hathaway, who was so young, you have to figure at the time, who's gotten so much attention sometimes. When she's older now, and she calls him to tell her that her husband has been killed. And that she has this whole denial lie of how he died.
Changing a tire,
amazing.
But he had actually been beaten to
death for cruising gay sex, and just the way she played it was so genius.
Because she's in such denial,
and the level of denial. So those themes, to me, it's like whether you believe the story, care about cowboys, it's like denial, longing, and tragic.
That it's Romeo and Juliet. They can never be together, and just the Keith's performance. It's just one of the greatest performances ever on camera, as far as I'm concerned.
Brokeback Mountain was released December 9th, 2005, and went on to be nominated for Best Film. And Annie Proulx wrote a very bitter piece in The Guardian the day after losing the Oscar, sneering at Crash and sort of basically saying she should have won it and what she did, which I guess many people think they were.
Yeah.
For number 5...
Number 5.
Go ahead.
Wait, hold on a second.
Balloons.
For those of you listening on radio, we're adjusting our. We have a boa of balloons that is embracing Tom. It's very nice.
It gets louder and louder as the day goes on.
The whispering balloons. Pink Flamingos.
Yes.
I think it deserves a moment in gay HERstory.
Sure.
Came out March 1972.
Blake has never seen any John Waters movie.
Oh, Blake, you have to see.
That's not true.
You've never seen any of the good ones. All you've ever seen is Pecker or something. Am I right?
I've never seen Pecker.
There was John Waters, the early filmmaker, was a very dangerous punk artist in your face, and he made a trilogy, of course. Pink Flamingos. What were the other two? Desperate Living
and Female Trouble.
And actually, in like 10 years after these films came out, I went to the Scala Palace in London, which was a sort of membership club, because you couldn't show these films on general release in England. You had to be a member of a film club,
Yeah.
Went to that, and at triple bill at midnight, they played all 3 films. I just remember drifting in and out of consciousness. Waking up and seeing a chicken being
delirium
fucked.
Because you loved it so much, or because you were tired?
It was a combination of tiredness, sheer boredom. Because let's be honest, the films are like. Who are
you? What is going on?
This is the same year.
Up John Waters movies and then say they're boring.
Well, yes, it's not very well made, and actually. It's more of an object than it is.
Tom.
No, I'm scared of you two fighting.
Roger Ebert. How many stars did Roger Ebert give his review of Pink Flamingos? He says, I'm not giving a star rating to Pink Flamingos because stars simply do not seem to apply. It should be considered not as a film, but as a fact, or perhaps as an object, which I think is
interesting.
Pretty right on.
That's
it's
interesting.
A monumental milestone. It doesn't have to be. No, Deep Throat came out in 1972. That's not a good film either.
No, but
these are milestone movies.
But it's not like a Warhol. It's not like Warhol's Empire or Warhol's Sleep or Warhol's Eat, because these are actually.
Those are really bad. But
right, there's a little more
really
action.
Dull. No, but it's interesting because they aren't great films. I mean, John Waters is genius because on one level he is this punk, he is this rebel. But you know John Waters. We know him older, but he's not. He's just somebody that had a point of view. Yes. I guess that's he wasn't out to cut things up, or maybe he was, but he just was.
But he, with the shit eating and all that. I mean, he is
just subversive. Yes, his mind.
Well,
and the people he surrounded himself with, and the aesthetic.
So in Pink Flamingos, it's one of the quotes is, "The beautiful mobile home you see before you is the current hideout of a notorious beauty divine, the filthiest person alive." And it concerns Divine vying with another couple to be the filthiest person alive. And that, as James, spoiler alert, but really, what are you spoiling, is the climactic scene at the very, very end of the film. Divine seizes the trophy, the crown of being, the title of being the filthiest person alive, and proves it by eating dog shit as it's shit out. There's a poodle and
she
it
talks
shits
about
and she eats it.
how they had to give the dog a suppository and then follow the dog around and wait for it to shit, and then it sort of dribbled out of the
But
butt.
this is not a great. This is not Brokeback Mountain, is it? It's a moment of. I think what it is, to me, it's about queer in the most outrageous, unapologetic, in-your-face way. And I think that's why I chose it, because there was no attempt in Pink Flamingos to fit in, to normalize, to commercialize. It was just, fuck you,
yes,
fuck everything,
yes,
fuck here it fucking is.
I'm here, I'm queer, get used to it.
Now,
in the loudest way, yes. And it wasn't even about filmmaking or film craft so much. You know, it wasn't like, because films are formula, right? You can have a great formula, well shot, well structured movie that can be crap, but this was crap in a different way.
Now, interestingly, you say that it's punk, but this is 3 years before punk, so it predates punk. And when you think of how punk is probably referencing that, you also, like when you think of Rocky Horror Picture Show, that's pre-punk too. And yet that scene where they're all standing around at the party.
The time warp. Doing the time warp is.
And that is punk, and yet it's before punk. And so, and when you think of Divine's look that she is actually referencing, she's sort of riffing on how much she hated the 50s. And how, because that was the 20-year anniversary,
it's breaking out, isn't it? It's breaking out. It's
and
like,
they talk about how John Waters would say that they were doing it just to piss off the hippies, because that was hippie 72, 73 was the hippies, and so they were trying to be anti-hippie and do whatever they could to piss off the peaceniks and the flower children. And it's fascinating how everything ends up referencing it, and punk actually is after it's, but it's so punk rock.
It is very punk rock, and I think maybe not a better way of putting it, but another way of putting it is to say it's queer. It's fundamentally queer in the broadest, boldest, biggest possible sense.
And Blake, I do wish we'd have a night where we could watch it, because I do think that you can appreciate it. I think that you'll love it.
Okay.
You definitely will.
He's busy Mondays at 10 watching
Below Deck.
Grand Hotel. But,
no, that's me.
I know.
Oh, Blake.
You're busy.
I'm busy. Yeah.
Meanwhile, you can watch every episode of RuPaul's talk show, RuPaul, on our YouTube channel, Wow Presents. And I can't recommend that enough either.
It's really captivating. You start watching, and I hear some friends time and time again, they'll think they're going to check it out for 5 minutes, and they watch the whole thing? It's really fun.
You're listening to Wow Report on Radio. Andy, Blake, have you got a question?
I do.
Oh.
What actor, according to Premiere Magazine, stated that at one point he and Joaquin Phoenix were considered for the 2 lead roles in Brokeback Mountain? And although the actor considered it due to his brother-like relationship with Joaquin Phoenix, this actor decided the script was ultimately too sexually graphic for him. Who is he?
Ooh, that's interesting. We'll be right back after the break. You're listening to the Wow Report on Radio Andy.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report.
Welcome back to the Wow Report on Radio Andy. We normally count down the top 10 things that made us go wow this week, but we're doing a little special thing, something different. Post-Pride, keeping the gay spirit burning. Alive, thank you. We are doing the gayest moments in HERstory. Most of which seem to be films or movies or TV shows, but we're screenagers, right?
That's all right, yes. Oh, I like that.
I'm Fenton, here with James and Tom and Blake. And what was the question?
This actor, according to Premiere Magazine, stated that at one point he and Joaquin Phoenix were considered for the 2 lead roles of Brokeback Mountain. Although the actor considered it due to his brother-like relationship with Joaquin.
Therein lies the big clue.
The actor decided the script was ultimately too sexually graphic for him.
Is it the love of Madonna's life?
Sean Penn?
That's what I think.
Oh, I'm thinking it's
Sean
Matt
Penn.
Damon.
No.
Not Matt Damon.
It's River Phoenix.
No, River was dead by this time.
It
but
was.
It's Keanu Reeves.
It was Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, well, that may. Ooh, ew.
Thank God.
I know.
Dang.
That's why I said ultimately
That
too sexually
homophobe,
graphic.
can
But
you
you know what?
imagine?
I mean, it's funny you mentioned Mark Wahlberg because actually, I think the Calvin Klein shots of Mark Wahlberg with his
that's
is
gay.
actually
That's
one of the
gay.
gayest moments
It
in
is,
history.
yeah.
I mean,
I went to see Rock and Jock, which was MTV special where they'd have sports stars with music stars.
Basketball.
And his halftime was he was with his pants on his ankles.
Right.
I was just
Good
like,
vibrations.
I lived long enough. Thank you, God. I can go now. Anytime.
But
after
I'll
this.
tell you, I would like to
Yeah.
see Joaquin Phoenix suck on that third nipple.
Okay.
all right.
Remember, doesn't he have 3 nipples?
Yes.
After the
yeah.
show, let's do some drawing. Let's do some
It's
imagining.
Fanfic.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're counting down, and we've reached number 4.
Number 4.
There's so many to pick from, and I wanted to give a shout out, and I've always had a strange relationship with, but Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, the original. Which again, and I know I'm going Will and Grace, but like in terms of the queerest moments, I guess I'm interpreting it as the queerest moments that break out to the culture at large. And Bravo was a new network. Bravo was still defining. Before it had been sort of arts and entertainment, right? It had been operas and things, and then they started doing Showbiz Moms and Dads, and they did a show I did called Boy Meets Boy.
Yes, Boy Meets Girl.
Keep your hate letters to yourself, and then around that same time, and they were unafraid to do gay kind of programming.
Right.
They did Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, which part of me has always held on to, like, oh, it's gay people helping straight people. It's gay people's hairdressers and shit, like in the service industries. But you know what? It's meant a lot more than that. And even in this reboot, which is really well produced and really, it gets a lot of emotions out. And now that we live in a sort of less binary, more fluid sexuality world, it goes across the board. And they were the original Fab Five were amazing. But I have to just give out love to somebody who I work with on RuPaul's Drag Race, which is Carson Kressley.
He
was the breakout.
He was the
Brilliant.
breakout star. He's the reason people watch. And I'm not putting down the other guys. I don't mean to. I
Right.
just have my crush, my Carson crush. I want to get out of my soul. And they won an Emmy Award. Again, they did so many things that allowed us in our own way at World of Wonder. Just like this, any success rises all the ships, right?
Yeah,
And Carson is a breakout star. He's brilliant. He's funny. He's classy. He's insane. He comes with more puns. We get to work with him on Drag Race, and it's true with Ross and Michelle too. We don't, and Rue too. We don't write for them. They just are incredibly funny and learned. And I had a dinner with Carson, which he did not pay for this. But he was doing a dinner, and at the Standard at the diner the other night, and at the end they're like, "Your dinner's paid for," and I was like, "Oh, thank you." And they're like, "Someone paid for Carson," but there was a guy from Seattle. We finally found out who it was. We were like, "Who is it?" And he was very gracious. I'm sure it happens all the time. But this guy from Seattle who was just so overwhelmed to meet Carson Kressley because of all that he kind of represents.
Oh, that's like,
and it was
I do
sweet.
want to say too, though, that Jay Rodriguez, if you follow him on Instagram, wow, he looks fantastic, doesn't he?
They all do, and I love all the guys. I'm fumbling because we don't have a lot of time, and I know Carson better, but like all of them, changed the world.
Yeah.
And thank you.
I think that's sort of the theme of the show is very much that we stand on the shoulders of others, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
Number 3.
Number 3.
I just wanted to say that one of my seminal growing up moments, my gay epiphanies, was 1982 MTV, when it was the beginning of that British new wave, all the stars that were coming on MTV at the time, because up until then, there was Madness, which we had, and that was about it. There was Flock of Seagulls, but basically MTV was Pat Benatar, Huey Lewis, Billy Squier,
Rod Stewart,
and it was a lot of American people. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, I wrote down a bunch of them here: Kajagoogoo, Adam Ant, Duran Duran, Big Country, Tears for Fears, Modern English, Dexy's Midnight Runner, Flock of Seagulls, Soft Cell, Human League, Ultravox, Thomas Dolby, Yaz, Bow Wow Wow,
Culture
Spandau Ballet, Fun Boy 3, What?
Culture
Club.
Club.
Well, that's what I'm getting to. I'm
Oh,
getting to
oh,
Culture Club. Right?
ruining
Haircut
everything.
100, talk, missing persons, and then by God, there was Boy George, 1982. Do you want to hurt me? And if that didn't just blow my little mind, I absolutely lost it. What is it? Is it a boy? Is it a girl? Like we had no idea in the beginning. There was no press around him when it first broke,
Right.
and we just saw the video, and we didn't know what was going on the other side of the pond. We had
Beautiful
just
voice.
beautiful voice,
That
and
beautiful face, Elizabeth Taylor face,
and the sort of the reggae beat, and it was like he was dressed like in a Hasidic, and with this, and it was all the different cultures of the world.
I guess
which
they
wasn't
do him these days for cultural appropriation.
well,
they?
that's just it, because at the time it wasn't cultural appropriation. It was the feeling that it was one world, one culture, and that Benetton was bringing everybody together, and you were showing the world the beauty of the other cultures out there. And he would wear a geisha and a bindi and this and that, and it was considered you were bringing the world to you, and you were
probably
showing
old-fashioned, but it should still be considered.
right.
And I had to wait so long to say something. I
Good
get
job,
lost.
good job, James. Shut it down. Filibuster.
I did just want to say, though, that the first album was colored by numbers, and it had Do You Really Want to Hurt Me, Time Clock of the Heart, I'll Tumble For You. None of these songs made a lick of sense. No. The lyrics were just absolutely bonkers.
Which made them even more poetic, right?
It was
obscure.
emotion.
But it was the tones and the harmonies.
Yes. When you think of Karma Chameleon, makes no sense. Miss Me Blind was my absolute favorite. Miss Me Blind and I'll Tumble For You. Victims, remember, with Helen Terry. And then he stumbled
Church
with
of the
War.
Poison Mind.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a good one.
War is stupid, but
War
not as stupid as that song.
Y la gente es estúpida. La guerra es estúpida. Y la gente es estúpida. The Spanish version.
Yeah.
That was my favorite one.
A lot of the bands you identified were classified in Britain at the time as gender bending.
Yeah.
And you can't say that now, but that's what it was.
Yep.
It was like yes, and I love that idea that a time when you could just, everything was all in. It was okay to put everything all in.
And MTV gave us a window to that world, which in New Hampshire.
No, it's
we
Saginaw,
didn't have.
Michigan. Like the idea, and you would sit up until 4 or 5 in the morning just watching, and just these bands, and it was
Downtown came to you, right?
Yeah.
Funny you should say that, because
Number 2.
6th of July, 1972, I think all those bands, most of them, probably saw David Bowie on Top of the Pops. Now, David Bowie and Top of the Pops was the one show in the week that everybody in England watched. And there were no VCRs.
Right.
So if you didn't see it at 7 o'clock, you missed it.
It was a bit like what
Ed
was
Sullivan.
No, the one that we had with
We had Bandstand.
with Victoria Principal and Andy Gibb.
Solid
Solid
Gold.
Gold. I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
No. And David Bowie performed Ziggy Stardust. No, he didn't. And David Bowie performed Starman, which was on the upcoming album Ziggy Stardust. And Ziggy Stardust was this sort of space person, alien thing who was very sort of bisexual and wore one pieces and draped his arm around Mick Ronson, his guitarist, and in fact at one point went down on his knees and filleted Mick Ronson, his guitarist,
the orange
by
hair and
playing...
Faux filleted.
Can I get the end of my name?
I need some context here.
David Bowie.
What does he look like?
Ziggy Stardust, David Bowie. Spiky red hair.
Yeah.
Very androgynous looks. And a medallion thing. What is that?
The
Indian.
third eye.
The third eye.
Yeah.
And lots of makeup. Thigh-high
lightning.
platform boots. Yeah, oodles of eyeshadow and makeup. I was very, very femme. Very decadent. He just said that he was bisexual.
Wait, now,
he was
is this
married.
before Gary Glitter?
He was married to. It's all around the same time. It's like Bowie came out as a more calculated, more perverse, more decadent version of glam rock, which was what Gary Glitter was doing, and T-Rex was doing. This was very much more sexually shady and sharpened and pointed. And when Bowie, as Ziggy Stardust, performed Starman Waiting in the Sky, and he looked into the camera and he said, "I had to pick on someone, so I picked on you," it was like zap. Everybody was zapped in the country, young kids especially, because we'd never seen anything like it. And I do believe that kind of pageantry, that kind of sexual ambiguity, I think that inspired the British wave that took over MTV,
I do believe
9 to
that
10 years later.
Even Boy George has said that we are all, children of David Bowie.
Right.
Yeah,
Children, yes. So that for me that was definitely I remember seeing that moment. It was startling. It was compelling, and it was like, oh my God, I didn't know.
And how old were you in that?
12.
Okay. I am not alone, thought young fans.
Yeah. Yes. So, and I was just going to say the other outrageous thing Bowie did, of course, was go down on his knees in front of Mick Ronson, his guitarist, and play his electric guitar with his teeth. So it looked like he was filleting him, but in fact he was playing his guitar. I mean, the whole thing was just like, just shudders of, you know.
Is this Mick Ronson of Samantha Ronson and Mark Ronson?
No, Mick Ronson of... No.
The Delaware Ronsons.
The Spiders.
The Baltimore Ronsons.
Just filling air.
Anyway, guys, we can't really speak about gay history without talking about Stonewall. So check out our new documentary, World of Wonders' new documentary, Stonewall Out Loud, which features the voices of the original protesters who were there at Stonewall. In fact, it's the first ever documentary made about Stonewall 20 years afterwards. And then we have revoiced it. We've got young LGBT actors and
the voices of real people that were really there and real activists coming out of the faces of today's LGBT people. And how long is it?
It's only 31 minutes.
I'm telling you, this is not like a huge life commitment, but it will change your life to watch this. It's really, really good, really, really moving.
And it's free. On Wow Presents.
Less than the cost of anything.
Less than the cost of the air in this balloon.
Leftover balloons. Is this for the Stonewall party?
Yay! We have to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll reveal the number one thing, the number one gayest moment in HERstory. I wonder if you can guess what it is.
Wow.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
These balloons are really heating up the studio.
Woo.
For those of you listening, we are surrounded by a rainbow, a Roy G. Biv of balloons.
It really is quite something to see, which is why I recommend you also take it in on Wow Presents, our YouTube channel. Yes. You can see us surrounded by balloons. James, you're right. They're like insulating material or something.
We may not survive this segment.
Okay. So we have the balloons because we're doing something different this week. We're counting down the top 10 moments in gay HERstory, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That make us go.
Wow.
I like to say wow.
Or makes us go, hey.
Hey, girl, hey.
We've reached number one. What is number one?
Number one.
I think we agreed it's a RuPaul, a supermodel.
Sprinkle throttle.
1991, RuPaul releases Supermodel on Tommy Boy Records. And the rest is HERstory, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great song. It's an iconic moment.
Ru was
launched Ru, right?
Like 30 years old. He had a career as a village performer, as a go-go
in New York,
boy.
downtown.
He'd reached the height of downtown with.
He was actually Queen of Manhattan.
Right, Queen of Manhattan. And who produced the record?
Eric Cupper produced the record, and we directed and produced the video.
Yeah, which was again genius. And I saw it on MTV when MTV was giving us culture. And I saw it with my mom, and she couldn't. Is that a woman or a man? But it was so beautiful, so captivating. The video itself was shot without permits. Is that because it's
absolutely
in every iconic place in New York? And
it was a one-day shoot, absolutely no permits. And the final scene that we shot was in the fountain outside the Plaza Hotel, because well, good God, if you went into the Plaza fountain today, the police would just shoot you.
I thought it was Columbus Square.
No, it was the Plaza, right outside the Plaza. And it was one take opportunity because the hair, the makeup, and that, of course, was an homage to Diana Ross in Mahogany.
Yes.
Favorite scene.
Which is the opening scene with Once Upon a Time There Was a Little Girl in the Projects of Brewster.
Which is who came from the Brewster Projects.
Yeah, which is, and LaWanda Page was the one who said that. The great.
And all of those.
How did you get LaWanda Page?
She came to set. She had a cot that her only request was that we had a cot for her so she could lie down between takes.
That's so
and she was
gorgeous.
Absolutely a dream. And another favorite moment is
I want a cot.
I always think it's like
I always ask for cots here, and they never give it to me.
You never give
sleep under your desk.
I do.
Sunset Boulevard. I think as Ru comes to the camera at the very end, it's very Norma Desmond,
and
isn't
that
it?
iconic image that feels like a Fellini film of Ru in full drag skipping down the street with schoolboys.
You know what?
Schoolgirls.
Including the daughter of a famous supermodel.
Beverly Johnson.
Thank you. Beverly Johnson's daughter.
Coincidence.
Just a coincidence.
Absolutely. We were just there we were just like shooting something, and Ru sees the girls and says, get them now. And we grabbed them all, got them all to sign releases, and of course, I mean, this was back in the day.
Tell your parents that we put you in a music video.
Sign here, child.
And World of Wonder was born.
But I also remember that was one of the first times we saw Exaldi and Matthew, the alchemy that they managed with Ru. And
right.
Just the wig and the red outfit. And just
Matthew Anderson, who was responsible for creating the glamazon look for Ru and did his makeup and hair
and
for
Zaldi,
years.
who has done the outfits forever and ever.
And
Still
to this
does,
day.
and as an Emmy Award winner. Zaldi and Matthew were a couple.
Yeah.
And they appear in the video.
They do? I forgot about
there's
that.
a thing where they're kind of doing makeup on him, and at one point, Ru leaves the room, and they're like putting wigs on each other or something, and Ru comes in like, "What's going on?" You know, it's full of that good stuff. And I heard Ru. I've told the story before. I heard Ru at the March on Washington in '94 perform Supermodel in the Wonder Woman outfit, and how he captivated the audience. And I thought to myself then, he was the most popular act of the entire day, that a drag queen will save us. I thought that in my head. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it meant. I wasn't as drag before, and look at this now.
Lady
RuPaul.
Bunny.
It's Lady Bunny will save us. Thank you. It all makes sense. Thank you. It's so good.
Well, that's all we got time for this week. But thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. Until next time.
Same time, same place next week, right?
Yeah.
Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go
Wow.